So, I'm going to talk about imagining 4 dimensions. 4 dimensions. 4 dimensions. 4 dimensions. 4 dimensions. And so, I'm going to start at 1 dimension, obviously. That's like normal way people do it. So, a line is a set of points, right? And then, so that's, a point is 0 dimensions. There's no dimensions. Infinitely small, right? So then, a line, you have 1 dimension, length, I guess. And a line is just a set of points, just one after the other. So you can imagine if you wanted to have, like, a few of the points, but, like, colored in, or a few of them not, you can color in a few of the points, and then leave some of them not colored in, obviously. So if you wanted to make a plane, what you do is you line up a bunch of lines next to each other, clearly. And if you wanted to make like a shape, like a circle, on the first line you would color in a point. On the second line you would color in 2 points, a certain distance from each other. On the next line you would color in 2 points a little farther from each other. And they would go farther and farther apart, as you moved across the circle. And then you get to the top of the circle right here, and then the points would start coming closer and closer and closer until it was a point again. Right, that's obvious. Now, to make a sphere in 3 dimensions. 3 dimensions is just a bunch of stacked planes. Right? Just a bunch of stacked planes. It's easy. So, you take one plane, and you put a point. And then on the next plane up, you have a circle, very small. And then on the next plane up, you have a circle that's a little bigger. And then the circles get bigger and 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 bigger until you reach the center. And then from there the circles get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller until it's a point again. And that's a sphere, 3-dimensional. And notice how in 2 dimensions you can, and this, like, I don't even understand this in 4 dimensions, but I'm going to get to it later. So if you have a 1-dimensional circle, which is just 2 points, because the number of points that are, like, say, 1 inch away from a point on a line is 2, one on one side, one on the other side. So, and that circle, you can knock it into the inside just by moving on that line. If we say the 2 points that make up the circle are like walls, you would not be able to get inside those walls if you're just staying on that line. But once you go to 2 dimensions, you need to build the walls all around you. But then in 2 dimensions, you can still get in top and bottom of the walls. So then in 3 dimensions, you spin the circle around, but you also like stack up the circles. So you stack up the circles, oh god, until stuff happens. Why am I even making this video? You stack up the circles, and then you can't get in from any direction. And that's it, right? That's where we live. There's a circle. You can't get in from any angle. But the way I always imagine the 4 dimensions, is you take a series of points to make a line. You take a series of lines to make a plane. You take a series of planes to make a space. Let's call it space. You take a series of spaces to make 4 dimensions. And if we follow the same rule as the lower dimensions, we take a point in the first space, a small sphere in the second space, here, a slightly bigger sphere in the next space, and then spheres get bigger and bigger and bigger until the center, and then they get smaller and smaller and smaller until a point on the other side. Right? So that follows the same analog, and I don't know, it helps to write this down, but I'm not going to write it down. I'm going to see how good I am at explaining things. You have a point, and then you have 2 points, and then you make a circle like this, right? It's obvious, circle. Or you can make a sphere, and this is like really hard to show with just my hands. I should plan this out beforehand. Yeah, and then you do that with spheres, and that's a 4-dimensional sphere, and that's really all I have to say. Except for if you have a sphere in the 4th dimension, you can sort of get in on the outside, so you have to expand the walls to be a bunch of smaller spheres, but that doesn't really make sense.